out following the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the case of Trayvon Martin. Al Sharpton, president of the National Action Network, is addressing the media. Let's listen in.
Even hospitalized, who had a peace warrant and got into, after her husband and her went through this, got into a argument with her husband. She fired a warning shot in the wall, pointing at no one, hitting no one injured. They refused to let her use Stand Your Ground in Jacksonville, Florida. And she's doing 20 years in jail. There's something incongruous that a woman that hurts nobody is doing 20 years, and a man that kills a young, innocent, unarmed man is given his gun back and sent home. We will be in Florida en masse. And we want to put on notice those corporations that support Alec even yet, who has been the legislative group to support and to get Stand Your Ground through in 30 states. Those corporations will be open in our 3-day conference to our deciding to withdraw patronage and consumers for those that invest in the demise of our community. Lastly, we will be here by the tens of thousands in Washington on August 24th, where Martin Luther King III and I, and National Action Network and all supporting groups have called a continuation march on Washington. 50 years ago that weekend, his father, Dr. King, stood in this town and talked about a dream he had. He came after the June assassination of Medgar Evers. He came because the South was ablaze with segregation and governors' lips, as he said, dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. He came because we did not have the right to vote in the South and the protected right in parts of the North. We come 50 years later with the Supreme Court having gutted the Voting Rights Act and voter suppression schemes all over the country. We come not with a June assassination of Medgar Evers, but a July assassination of our being able to protect our children from civilians walking armed and reckless. We come with civil rights and voting rights threats that are almost the same as they were 50 years ago. They are just a little more finesse. They have been given a little more cover, but the results are still inequality. The results are we still do not have equal protection under the law and equal access to the ballot box. So from 100 Cities Saturday to Miami Conference next week to Tallahassee to Washington, we are going to fight. On Saturday night with the verdict, we lost the battle, but the war is not over, and we intend to fight. Yes. Let me say before we open up that we urge all that participate with us to do so nonviolently and peacefully. Those that have gone into any sporadic acts of violence, because 98% of all the protests have been peaceful, do not represent us, do not represent the family, do not represent Trayvon Martin. His memory and name should not be smeared with reckless violence. He was killed by reckless violence. You cannot fight recklessness. You cannot fight violence by becoming it. We're not trying to outgun violence. We're trying to outdo and undermine those that would take lives. We must be what Trayvon was, and we will conduct ourselves that way. Every rally we had leading up to the prosecutor, that Reverend Bryant led, that I led, and others, were peaceful. Not one window broke, not one brick thrown. That's how we must conduct ourselves. That's how we will move forward. I'll take a couple of questions before I leave and hand it to Reverend Waller.
the battle and the battleground being in Florida.
Al Sharpton there addressing the media on a campaign called Justice for Trayvon, referring of course to that 26th of February shooting of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman. After lengthy debate and discussion, he was acquitted after 16 hours, in fact, of a great deal of mulling over the facts in the case. And he was accused of second-degree murder for shooting the young man inside a gated community. Zimmerman, of course, maintains that the teenager attacked him and he acted in self-defense. But it has brought into sharp focus what many say are fragile race relations in the United States.
News that moves. eNCA.com.